Let's go Falcons! Big questions and big moves ahead. Falcons fans, it's time to talk about some news that's been buzzing in the fan community. There's a lot of discussion going on, and we need to break it down. If you believe the Falcons can make it to the Super Bowl, hit that like button. I know it might sound impossible to some, but I'm all about keeping the dream alive. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Now let's dive into the news. The Falcons' offseason moves have been making waves, and there's one big question everyone's asking. Should Atlanta still consider trading for Bengals star pass rusher Trey Hendrickson? At first glance, signing Leonard Floyd might make fans think the Falcons are done adding to their pass rush, but is that really the case? Let's take a closer look and see if the Falcons should go all in on Hendrickson or pump the brakes on this idea. The need for pass rush is real. Let's start with the obvious. The Falcons need pass rushers, badly. It's been a long-standing issue. Last season, Atlanta ranked near the bottom of the league in sacks. And while there's some promising talent, they still don't have that dominant edge rusher. Enter Leonard Floyd. He's been a solid performer with 8 to 10 sacks per season over the last few years. While he might not be at his Super Bowl peak with the Rams, he's a big step up from what the Falcons had last season. But here's the kicker. One addition isn't enough. If Atlanta wants to compete, they need more firepower on the defensive line. So let's revisit the idea of trading for Trey Hendrickson. Is Hendrickson really available? The Bengals are reportedly asking for a first-round pick for Hendrickson, but we all know that teams often ask for more than they expect to get. Just look at the Seahawks. They initially wanted a first and third-round pick for a player, but ended up settling for a second. So maybe the Bengals are doing the same. But here's the big question. Do the Bengals even want to trade Hendrickson? He's coming off 2 incredible seasons with 17.5 sacks each year. That's elite production. And the Bengals are still in win-now mode, so trading away one of the NFL's top pass rushers might not be in their best interest. The only way this deal happens is if Hendrickson pushes for it, maybe by holding out or making it clear he wants a change of scenery. Should the Falcons make the move? If Hendrickson is available, should the Falcons pull the trigger? Well, here's where things get tricky. The Falcons only have 5 draft picks this year. Giving up a second-rounder for a 31-year-old pass rusher isn't an easy decision. If they were a playoff contender, it would make more sense. But right now, the Falcons are still figuring things out, especially with rookie quarterback Michael Penix Jr. If Penix shows he's the real deal, maybe next offseason would be the right time to make a bold move. But right now, it might not be worth giving up valuable draft capital. That said, it's hard not to be tempted by Hendrickson's talent. He's one of the best pass rushers in the league, and he could immediately upgrade Atlanta's defense. But timing is key. If the Falcons trade for him and aren't ready to compete, they might regret it later. Instead, the Falcons could use that second-round pick to find their own version of Hendrickson in the draft. After all, Hendrickson himself was a third-round pick. Maybe it's time to focus on developing young talent rather than making a short-term move. But let's be clear, Floyd alone isn't enough. If the Falcons decide not to trade for Hendrickson, they'll need to find more pass-rushing help in the draft. Could the Falcons finally draft a Georgia Bulldog? This leads us to another important question. Will the Falcons finally draft a Georgia Bulldog? This year's draft class has some intriguing options from Georgia, like Mykel Williams, Malachi Starks, and Jalen Walker, all of whom have been linked to the Falcons. Williams is a beast. He has the size, speed, and skills to be a dominant edge rusher in the NFL. His production last season wasn't as high as expected, but an ankle injury might have played a role. Still, his raw talent is undeniable. The big question is, will he still be available at pick 15? If he is, he could be the perfect fit. Next up, let's take a look at Jalen Walker. Who's the right fit for the Falcons' pass rush? Jalen Walker had a solid year for Georgia, playing primarily as an edge rusher and finishing with 6.5 sacks. But in the NFL, he might be better suited as an off-ball linebacker. He's an intriguing prospect, but the big question is he really what the Falcons need? They already have Caden Ellis at linebacker, and while adding depth is always a good idea, what Atlanta really needs is a true edge rusher. Malachi Starks is another name fans are buzzing about. The Georgia safety was electric at the Combine, and pairing him with Jesse Bates in the secondary would give the Falcons one of the most intimidating safety duos in the league. But here's the problem. Atlanta's pass rush still needs help. Drafting a safety, no matter how talented, might not be the best move if the team is still struggling to sack the quarterback. At the end of the day, the Falcons need sacks, plain and simple. The big question, Hendrickson or drafting a pass rusher? Here's where things get tricky. Should the Falcons trade for Trey Hendrickson or focus on drafting and developing their own pass rush talent? If the Bengals lower their asking price, it's hard to say no to a guy with Hendrickson's proven ability. But if they hold firm on their high price, maybe it's smarter to keep the draft picks and go younger. Falcons fans, what do you think? Should Atlanta go all in for Hendrickson, or is it better to stay patient and build through the draft? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The Falcons can't afford to play it safe. If the Falcons decide not to trade for Hendrickson, they cannot afford to play it safe in the draft. They need to be aggressive in finding their next pass rushing star. This isn't a small issue. Atlanta's pass rush has been bad for years. Since 2021, they've ranked dead last in sacks. And that's a major problem that needs fixing if they ever want to be a real contender. The good news? This year's draft class is stacked with talented edge rushers. That's why giving up a second-round pick for a 31-year-old like Hendrickson feels like a bit of a gamble. The Falcons have a real shot at landing a game-changing pass rusher with the 15th overall pick, and if they play their cards right, they could even find a steal in the second round. Who are the best pass rusher options? We've already talked about Mykel Williams, who has all the potential to be an elite edge rusher. But there's another name to keep an eye on, James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee. Pierce has been rising on draft boards and could be another great option for the Falcons. The Falcons' next big decision, pass rusher or cornerback. If you're looking for explosiveness, look no further than James Pierce Jr. He ran a sub 4.5 40-yard dash at his pro day, which is insane for a player his size. If he's still available at pick 15, the Falcons absolutely have to consider him. His speed and size make him a potential game changer on the edge. But what if they want to double down and grab another pass rusher later in the draft? Enter names like Braylon Trice from Washington and Adisa Isaac from Penn State. Both have the potential to develop into solid NFL pass rushers. If the Falcons don't take a rusher in the first round, they absolutely must target one in the second round. What about that second pick? Now let's assume the Falcons take a pass rusher with pick 15. That still leaves a big question. What do they do with their second round pick? A lot of fans are eyeing the cornerback position, and it makes sense. The Falcons' secondary is already solid, but adding another young, talented corner to pair with A.J. Terrell could elevate this defense to another level. One name to keep an eye on is Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. Yes, his name is incredible, but his game is even better. He has the size and skills to be a lockdown corner at the next level. If he's available in the second round, the Falcons will have a tough time passing on him. Another option could be Kamari Lassiter from Georgia. He's tough, physical, and has the dog mentality that would fit perfectly in Atlanta's defense. So what's the best move for Atlanta? At the end of the day, the decision comes down to how aggressive the Falcons want to be. If they believe they're ready to compete for the playoffs right now, then making a move for Trey Hendrickson might make sense. Hendrickson is a proven player, and with him, there are no questions. You know exactly what you're getting, a dominant pass rusher who can come in and make an immediate impact. But if the Falcons are thinking more long-term, the draft could be the better move. Atlanta isn't just one player away from contending. They still need to build out their roster. That second-round pick could be crucial in adding the young talent that will help the team in the years to come. If Michael Penix Jr. turns out to be the real deal, the next offseason might be the time to make those win-now moves. But for now, it might be smarter to hold on to those picks and focus on developing young talent. The bottom line, patience or all in. This decision ultimately boils down to patience. Are the Falcons willing to wait and build something special? Or do they take the risk and go all in on Hendrickson right now? There's no right or wrong answer, just different philosophies on how to build a championship team. Now I want to hear from you, Falcons fans. If you were in charge, would you trade for Hendrickson or would you build through the draft? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on all the latest Falcons news. Go Falcons!